Hello, YouTube. This is Asatsu5, and I want to talk about toxic femininity. And I probably mispronounced that, but it's a term I coined. I'm not aware of anybody else using it, but we always hear about toxic masculinity, and that is bull in my opinion. And me and my brother were talking about this subject yesterday, talking about masculinity, femininity, chivalry, what boys need to become men. And we were talking about this yesterday. Unbeknownst to us, Gillette came out with a short video, a commercial, if you will. And Gillette was pretty much just talking about how boys shouldn't play fight, calling or telling a girl, "Smile, sweetie," is terrible. You know, you don't need to do that. That's harmful. It's harmful to tell a girl to smile and that she's sweet. Um, you know, boys, we need to stop saying boys will be boys. If we teach our kids, our boys, to not play fight, then they will stick up for people being bullied, and the world will be a happier, fluffier place, which is BS. I'm probably slightly triggered because the way I was brought up and the bullying I dealt with and how I solved that and how it really worked. And I'll talk about that later. I've talked about it in past videos. But, and I'll tell you the comment I left to Gillette. But there's some things we need to realize. When I say toxic femininity, I'm not saying that feminism or being feminine is a poison. I'm not saying that dudes shouldn't have estrogen and girls shouldn't have testosterone. Biologically, we have both, and we need both. Women need to have the ability to be the mama bear and to defend her kids if need be. And men need to have the ability, no matter how burly, how big of a beard they have, what kind of lumberjack they are, they need to have the ability to have tea parties with their daughters. And this is all very important, in my opinion. And my mom taught me chivalry. I don't think she quite understood what chivalry was when she was teaching it to me, but she taught me to hold up doors for women, being respectful to women, and she also taught me that, if I see a man mistreating a woman, that's open invitation. I go in there and I defend her. She told stories of her father, doing just that. She's like, yeah, if, someone is bullying someone weak, that you stand up for them, you protect them. And I'm not claiming to be a badass. Sorry, I try not to curse in my videos, but in the big scheme of things, ass isn't that big of a curse word in my opinion. But I'm not claiming to be a badass. I'm not claiming to be an ultimate fighter. I'm not even claiming to be a good fighter. By telling you that aggression is necessary in certain points of life. And so, with play fighting, you learn to be assertive without being destructive. You learn to be able to get in someone's face, get in someone's space, and be aggressive, but not necessarily to be destructive. I'm going to use that term again. You learn confidence. You learn how you should. You learn the difference between play and being mean. For example, me and my dad, we wrestled when we were kids, or when I was a kid, he was grown, and we wrestled, we roughhoused, would move the furniture out, just roll a little bit, and if I poked him in the eye, and this is an example my brother gave, or hit him in the balls, or if I just started wailing on him, that gives my dad the opportunity to say, no, this is not play. You are being mean. You're being destructive. You're attacking your father. But just wrestling and having a game where it's aggressive, where there was definitely competitiveness and aggression involved, but we learned that we can be aggressive without being destructive. And that is very important in life, to be assertive, to be firm, to be upfront. And so boys need to have these lessons. And if you don't teach them about that stuff, they don't learn it. And if the father's not involved, if the kid gets a bad role model, that's when they learn that beating women is right, all right. They learn that rape is all right. They learn that you know, crossing out authority figures is all right. They learn all the bad habits that keep them from being men. They learn that having children with 5 different women and not being able to pay for them is all right. So they learn all these bad habits for not being having a proper father figure and not being taught the difference between destructiveness and aggressiveness and assertiveness. The term is thrown around toxic masculinity, and there's a big difference between me calling a woman or girl or chick, whatever you want to call them. There's a difference between me saying "smile, sweetie," and "hey, babe," and calling them some much worse names than that. There's nothing wrong with telling a woman to smile, sweetie. There's nothing wrong with telling a woman to smile, and there's nothing wrong to telling them that they're sweet. In fact, Audrey Hepburn, probably one of the most feminine female actresses we've ever had. She's beautiful. She says the prettiest girls are happy girls. That's a quote from her. I probably didn't quote it verbatim, but she says happy girls are the prettiest girls. So telling them to smile is actually making them look more attractive. Is giving them confidence. They're putting the best foot forward. So that's something very important to remember. Is telling someone to smile and that they're sweet is not a bad thing. Saying, "Hey, babe, you're beautiful," is not a bad thing. It's not toxic. So that's something to keep in mind. I was taught chivalry. I've tried to film this video a couple times, and I might be repeating myself, but I won't repeat myself through the whole thing because this is about the stopping point that the last video got turned off. But my mom taught me chivalry. She taught me to open up doors for women, to be respectful to them. She taught me if I see a man mistreating a woman, let's just say I walk into a bar or I walk into a restaurant and a man is dogging on this woman, cursing them out, possibly slapping them, I am expected to act on that. And it's not necessarily the legal thing to do, but it was what I was taught. I've never had to do it before, but I was taught that if someone physically strong and bigger, is picking on someone smaller and weaker, that I should stand up for that person. And I have done that. Not necessarily someone that was weaker or anything, but, I pulled people off of my friends, because... I was protecting them. They were my friends. I'm protecting them. I've done other things like that, but and that's for a separate video. But anyways, I was taught, and she told me stories that her father was the kind of guy that if someone was being rude to a female, that he would confront them about it, and she raised me to be the man that she wanted me to be. And I come from a divorced family. I have my biological father, which I have a great relationship with. I have a stepfather that I have a great relationship with. Men need to teach their boys that sometimes aggression is a good thing. There's going to be times in life where people are going to make fun of you, bully you, try to walk all over you, and you need to learn how to deal with that. I have a speech impediment. I'm severely dyslexic, severely dysgraphic. That paints a very ugly picture of my cognitive ability. And I had to deal with that my whole life. I'm still dealing with it. On YouTube, I'm a grown man, and I'm being picked on by kids. I'm assuming they're kids, because most men don't do this, although I have come across grown men that did it. But they're making fun of me, and I have to learn how to deal with that. And I have to deal with it on YouTube in a different way how I deal with it in real life. But I have to learn how to deal with it. I have to be like, hey, screw you. You have no power over me. And, this is who I am. This is who you are. And you are making yourself look very ignorant at this point. Let me chill for a little bit. Um, but yes, boys need to learn how to be men from their fathers, a proper father figure. Sometimes we don't have the convenience and the blessing of having a proper father figure from a biological father, but they need a father figure. They need to learn how to be men, and they need to learn how to treat women, just like how fathers need to learn how to treat their daughters, and so their daughters know what kind of men to chase, what kind of men to look for. That's why men need to have a little bit of estrogen and have a tea party, so the daughter can know how to be treated, how she should be expected to be treated. Men are protectors. Females are nurturers. But that doesn't mean that men can't nurture and women can't protect. But, there are really two different jobs for the different sexes. And I want to read to you what I wrote to them on their YouTube channel, because I posted it in a public forum and I expect everybody to read it. I don't expect them to read it because I wrote it and I'm that awesome. There was no expectation of privacy when I post something on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook. It's a public forum, so I expect that people are going to see it, and I'm going to share it with you. And keep in mind, this is Gillette, the razor company, the best that man can get, apparently. And I said, another good reason why I shave with a straight razor. Here's another example of toxic femininity. Boys need to play fight to learn to be assertive. There's nothing wrong with telling a girl or woman, smile, sweetie. Audrey Hepburn said that happy girls are the prettiest. You are the reason why chivalry is dying. You are killing manhood. Yes, there are some real a-holes in the world, but it takes a real man to remedy that problem. And that pretty much sums up what I've just told you. And there are some real a-holes out there. There's nothing redeemable about a boy taking advantage of a woman who's drunk and passed out. I know that happens. It's wrong. There's nothing redeemable about a boy having kids with every woman he dates and yet not having a job. I'm not saying that welfare was a bad thing, but you just at least get a job. Take some responsibility. So there are some real a-holes out there, but in the grand scheme of things, in the West especially, toxic masculinity isn't really a real thing. Now, if you want to study different cultures, different religions and stuff, the Muslim community, and I'm not saying that all Muslims are like this, but I'm talking about in the Middle East and the doctrine that their Quran and Hadith teach, they do have toxic masculinity. The sacred writings of Muhammad talk about how one woman's testimony is worth half that of one man. They teach that you can, sleep with 9-year-olds. They teach that if a woman doesn't dress in a burqa, that they can throw battery acid on them. There's women in the Middle East who are in prison because they can't prove that they were raped because one woman's testimony is half that of one man. So there is such thing as toxic masculinity, but I'm definitely not going to say that these people who practice these deplorable acts are real men. They are evil. So, this very innocent thing that guys are doing, hey sweetie, hey babe, you're beautiful. Those are not the problems we need to be fighting. That is not an issue. Any woman who gets offended because a man says, smile, sweetie, or hey, babe, you're beautiful, She is a miserable woman, and she wants everybody to be miserable with her. So I'm gonna be ending this video about now. It's about 15 minutes. I think I've ranted enough. But just know that I have very strong, passionate beliefs, and when I believe something, I talk about it passionately, and sometimes it drags on for a long period of time. But I don't want this video to be a 30-minute production. I just want to share with you my stance on this and how what Gillette's doing is toxic femininity. You're injecting feminine traits into men that don't need to be there. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with men having a little bit of estrogen. There's nothing wrong with women having a little bit of testosterone. But the proportions need to be correct. So that's it. I'm Satsu5. Sorry if I bummed you out. I encourage you to look at Gillette's video if it hasn't been taken down. It's not been well received. They've gotten way more dislikes than likes. But, I encourage you to look at it and get your own opinion. And, leave a comment to Gillette and tell them if you're going to be shaving with a straight razor or if you're going to be using a disposable razor. And the whole reason why I started with a straight razor is, one, I had a straight razor, I wanted to learn how to use it, and two, straight razors are more environmentally friendly. You're not buying disposable razors, throwing away plastic and metal that's not being recycled. You're using a reusable item that can be passed down to your kids. I use a antique straight razor sometimes. I have a new one, I have an antique one. The antique one works just as well as the brand new one. But that's it. I'm a Satsu5, and I'm out.